All right, I want to call this meeting of the Simpson County Fiscal Court to order. I'm going to ask Magistrate Scott Poston if he would lead us in a prayer, and after that, we will have a pledge to the flag.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, for this day and the many blessings that you have given us in life. And Father, today we just come to you and we just pray that you'll be with the ones that have, this community that have lost loved ones and may be sick or in the hospital, Father. We just pray for them. Heavenly Father, as always, we just ask that you be with our law enforcement, our first responders. Heavenly Father, we just pray that you'll be with us today at this meeting, that all that's said and done here is pleasing to you. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got some visitors here today that we want to call on and recognize. Back on July 25th, there was a presidential declaration on the Memorial Day storms that come through. As y'all, most of you are well aware, there was pretty significant damage in a few areas around the county. And so there was a group from FEMA that was in yesterday talking with Bob. They're going to be out on the ground, I guess going house to house, but Russell and Yvonne are with FEMA, are here with us. Y'all welcome. Let's come up to the microphone here and
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
yes, sir.
Appreciate
We're
it.
glad to have you here with us today.
Good to be here. Thank you. My name is Russell Anderson. I'm with FEMA. I'm here with one of my associates, Yvonne Smith. And we're just kind of here today to give you kind of a brief overview of what's happening and answer any questions if you have and leave any, if there's anything, you can send me an email and I'll get back to you if I don't know it. But usually I can get most of them, but there might be a few that won't come out. But basically, we're starting up within the next 24 to 48 hours. We're going to have a group of our team, the Disaster Survey Assessment Team, DSA. They'll be going door to door and knocking on doors and checking for if there was any damage to the resident's house. And if there is, they'll help them register in person. There's 3 ways you can register. You don't have to wait for them to knock on your door. You can go online, in person, or by phone. But they will they'll be able to set all that stuff up and answer any questions. And if any of your constituents have any issues about anything, be sure to contact me or or Yvonne. We'll have all our contact information here. With the judge, we'll have it as well. But we're just glad to be here. We should have we have a disaster response center open in Warren County. So they'll be kind of going mobile and moving from city to city. They'll be like in each place for maybe a week or 2 until they get that taken care of, and then moving to the next location. But let's see. I think that's about it. If there's any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm working with Robert here as well for just for significant information. If there's anything urgent, you can reach out to him, and he'll contact me, and I'll send it up the line. Yes, sir.
So when we met yesterday, we talked about this. Of course, Bob done the initial damage assessment like immediately afterwards, and we have a list of addresses that we know were impacted. So you'll be getting that list of addresses. But when you get into an area that was impacted, will y'all just be stopping at those addresses only, or will y'all stop at every house along that street just to check?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's almost like you don't want. What about people that fall through the cracks? They don't get notified somehow. We're going to go to every house we can, knock on the door, and check for if they'll answer it or not. But yeah, we're going to go to every house. But still, there's people that fall through the cracks. Or a big issue we had with a few folks is they just don't think they'll qualify. They don't know they think what FEMA is and what it really is are 2 different things. Like they just think, they'll cover everything, or they won't cover anything. But my best advice that we've kind of been trained on is please register, because they'll find out you're living next to your neighbor and he got all this money and I didn't get anything. But it's not always just an even case. They might have their neighbor might have great insurance, and your insurance might not be as good, or it might be better, or, but they're just differences, and we don't know till we have our experts look at your case and apply. But that's the main thing, is just to apply.
And so people need to realize that FEMA assistance is just that. It's just assistance. It's not covering every expense.
Correct. We get you back on your feet, if your house got leveled, and I heard a couple of places got totally wiped out, but we get you four walls, bathroom, and the bedroom set up, but we don't replace the landscaping or any of the other things like that's kind of up to your insurance company. So, but barring any questions, that's about it.
If there was an extra expense over insurance for like the cleanup, do they help with that?
Well, you kind of have to really just go and talk to them and ask them. It depends on, if you just, a tree smashes your car, or, you have to just kind of follow up tell them to have pictures and evidence, and bring your insurance policy with
Well,
them.
no, what I was talking, not just the damage, but there were a lot of people that were out on the expense of actually having to pay somebody to cut the trees up, and we actually had a site for people to bring their debris, but there was
There's
a lot of people that
trees.
were, I heard, $7,000-8,000 to clean a tree up and stuff like that. Is there any assistance for if people were out that money?
Yeah.
Is there any assistance for that?
I'd probably ask to step in.
Only thing I can say is they need to get registered.
Okay.
And talk to them with the DRC, and they'll take each case individually.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard there were some, I saw a couple of pictures of some trees that were 6 feet around, big trees that came down.
Yeah.
And that's
I mean,
expensive to move a tree like that.
There's a lot of expense to that, and if that tree didn't hit your house, it didn't hit a house, or it was just in their yard and blocking their driveway, somebody had to be out a lot of money to clean that up. So that's the reason I didn't know if that was included.
Just give us a call, and then, ask them the questions, if it's right on your property, or if it's in, like, on the street or something. It depends on what the situation is. But yeah, just give us a call, one of the 3 ways.
Okay,
If they don't register, they're guaranteed to get nothing.
I understand.
Yeah.
If they register, they still might not get anything, but it'll be looked at.
Well, I personally didn't have any damages, but I know people that did, so.
So Russell, this email you sent out yesterday afternoon, the $675,000, that's the total money as of now that's available for all the 15 counties for individual assistance, correct?
I believe that's how much has been given away, if I'm not mistaken, but it just depends on each case, because sometimes, one household will have just their deductible, they get that back, and the insurance covered everything else to get them back to where they can operate again. Other times, they just need as much as they can get, and so it'll be a higher level.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
And I'll send those out with a little more clarification, and let me follow up with you a little later, Judge, and if I get that more specific.
So one big takeaway for the public, and I'm looking back here at our cameras here, because we do stream this live and then it goes out too, is if you live in an area that was impacted and you see people out walking around, they're not out to pilfer or plunder your house. They will all either have on a FEMA shirt or gear, but at the very least, they will have a FEMA tag and will identify themselves as FEMA representatives when they're knocking on your door. So, Sheriff, I'm just, as just a heads up, if you get a call, and you know the areas that were impacted too, that, hey, there's a group of people out here swarming through our neighborhood, it's most likely the FEMA representatives coming just to check on you and make sure that you're...
And it's not gonna be 10 or 11 o'clock at night like it was doing the water check.
No, that's a good question. Like typically,
That's a
what
great-
hours will the FEMA representatives be out calling on people?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. There's always, with this type with disasters and, money that's getting reimbursed and things, there's a chance for fraud. And so people kind of worry about, they see people out knocking on your door, they looking to try to break in my house, or what's going on. But we always notify everybody before we're going out, and they'll have gear and clothing on and stuff, and I guarantee you'll get a call from somebody that say, hey, there's people out in my neighborhood knocking on doors, looking through my house, but it's gonna be us, and we'll notify law enforcement that we're out there, that we're gonna be in the neighborhood, so people don't, get worried or anything, but.
I've got a list of who's on the team.
Okay.
I'm gonna supply that to dispatch. So if they check the name, they can call dispatch, dispatch will verify it.
So typically, what hours will individuals be out knocking on doors?
Pretty much just standard, we're not after like 5 o'clock, probably
So-
between 8 and 5.
So like 8 to 5? So-
Yeah, pretty much 8 to 5, and then we have to hit everybody. That's kind of our goal, one way or another. If nobody answers the door or the phone or email, we'll leave a note on their door so they can contact us. And I think you've got copies of some of the letters that went out. And also, just one other quick thing is we put them in different languages for folks, because I guess there's some different, some languages here in this county that people need to be addressed in, not always in English. So we put out as many as we can, but there might be a language or two that gets through. But yeah, we've got the general idea on that, so.
Okay. Gentlemen, y'all have any other questions?
No, a lot of that's in my district, so just tell the folks, if they've had damage and they need assistance and they don't see you guys, you're welcome to call me, the courthouse, or Bob, or
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing is just we're trying to tell people just to register, because like Bob just said, if you don't register, you're going to get zero for sure, but you have a chance, not a chance, but they just have to review each case on a separate basis. But one other thing that I was going to say is sometimes it brings up the case of where not everyone feels, compelled to talk with the government and things like that. You understand? But we're definitely here to help folks, and if they have an issue, if they have something that got damaged, we want to help them as much as we can. But we just encourage everybody to apply, one of the 3 ways.
Russell, that's probably why some aren't compelled to talk, because when they hear the words, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help," they're like, nah.
Exactly. Yeah, we have run into that, even with, even people going door to door, they're like, nope, nothing for you here. But we have to overcome that, and we understand it, so we have to overcome that issue. But we're really here to help as much as we can. And like I said, if there's anything that you need any clarification on, be sure to get back to me, and I'll do best to get it solved for you.
The canvassing team is scheduled to start tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should see anybody today. We start tomorrow. We should see people on the ground.
Okay. All right. Russell, Yvonne, thank y'all for being here with us. Y'all are welcome to stay and be entertained for our meeting, but you're not obligated to stay. We will gladly let y'all leave and enjoy your day elsewhere.
Thank you for your time, Judge.
I'm sure you won't have anything as fun as what we're about to do.
I don't know.
No matter where you go. But
This information we put on our website, so folks have.
yes. In fact, yesterday in our meeting, we told Russell that all the communications that needed to be made public, to include Adam on the email, because he would be the one getting it on the Simpson County Facebook page and website. So yeah, all of those communications, all of this will be loaded to the website and on social media.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank y'all.
thank you.
All right, gentlemen, if you had a chance to review the minutes of our July 16th fiscal court meeting, we need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Jeffrey. Any questions, discussion, correction? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. The next item is, I goofed up and had Nicole put this on as second reading. I have forgotten we did not have the first reading. We had a little discussion, and the text of the public hearing was sent out to everyone. And so this is actually be a first reading of zone change ordinance number 920.125, Ag to I-2, the property over on Witten at the corner or intersection, I guess, of Witten and Cal Harris Road. Did all of you receive the transcript of the public hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And have an opportunity to review it? So I guess our options now would be, if you've reviewed it, we can either have the motion and a second and a vote to approve the first reading, or we can deny it. I guess the question I would have would be for you, Sam, as counsel. If we deny the zone change request as presented by the Planning and Zoning Commission, without any new or other information other than what's in that public hearing, could we, and I know your common comment, but could we be subject to some legal action if we just arbitrarily say no?
I will leave off my,
We know the comment. We've all got it. We're with you.
I will leave that off at your request. The short answer is, whether they can succeed in litigation or not is a different story. If, I don't think it's an automatic rubber stamp. I do think the traditional position of this body through several fiscal courts is to give great deference to the Planning and Zoning Commission, because that's one, that's their job, and two, they were there at the hearing, and even though you've looked at the transcript, reading a transcript is not the same thing as actually being there and heard.
Right, because there are some things voiced probably that aren't actually recorded in the transcript.
That engage people's body language and reactions and such. But, I mean, certainly, if you're worried about possible litigation, certainly that can happen. Whether somebody, this body ultimately has to make the decision to change or not.
Right.
A zone, all the planning and zoning commission can do is just recommend it.
Yeah, and the only comment I can make to that is, between city and county government in almost 14 years, I never recall, I don't recall a decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission being voted against.
I think it happened maybe once that I can recall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really, really rare. Though usually, to be fair, something does come up after the fact.
That we didn't know at the public hearing.
Or they did not know at the public hearing.
Right.
Also, you know, you run into that. But that's, as I said, it's very, very, very rare.
Well, the reason I asked all those questions is, I know there was concern, was the reason that everyone wanted to see the transcript. So we're kind of at the place now where we need a motion and a second to either approve the zone change or to not approve the zone change.
Don't everybody speak at once.
Well, here's we equally appoint members to the Planning and Zoning, county and the city, so we have equal representation on the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's my understanding that this was a unanimous vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission to authorize this zone change, or to recommend this zone change. I guess the Planning and Zoning Commission doesn't technically authorize the zone change, they recommend it, and then the recommendation either comes to the city or county governments for final approval one way or the other. You know, so you hope that we've appointed people, and I think we have, that are taking all the information in and processing it, and they are represented with legal counsel at their meetings as well. So
Certainly.
but
No, I guess the way I understand, that's already an area out there that floods really bad.
I guess.
And with all of that, that's a lot of square footage, you know, that's gonna, and I know that they're supposed to have water retention, so,
yeah, I mean, they would not be able to do a development project
Right.
without some
Right.
water retention measures in place. I don't know what that will be.
right.
That
Well, I made a motion at the last meeting, but I was just gonna say, I feel like we have a board of people that we have appointed that are capable of doing the job. I personally don't want to do the job of planning and zoning. I've sat on that board before. I based my decision off their recommendation. They had the hearing, all this stuff was discussed at the hearing, so, I made the motion last time, but it didn't get a second, so I'm just waiting to see, I'll wait and see who makes the motion this
And
time.
I can say to that too, Marty, I know there have been times when the Planning and Zoning Commission has done a public hearing and not recommended the zone change.
Yes,
And in those instances, and I don't recall this, Sam, you may recall, but in instances where the Planning and Zoning Commission does not recommend the zone change, the requester of the zone change, their recourse would be to address the governing bodies, and I don't recall that ever happening.
Only thing I can remember is there are times in the past where the city, and I think the statutes permit this, basically went on and did the zone change without the planning and zoning weighing in because it was something they wanted to expedite. But that's not, to my knowledge, that's never happened in the county. But I'm just saying, I don't think, if you're aggrieved, if you don't get what you want from the Planning and Zoning Commission, if they rule against you, then there's an appeals process. It would come directly to us or the city, depending on where the property was located.
All right, so we need a motion either one way or the other, or I'll give it a kind of, in my mind, a 30-second countdown to die due to a lack of a motion.
so let me ask you, if we don't get a motion,
If we don't get a motion, the zone change will not get approved.
It's like-
I mean,
it's like-
we
it's like a
have to
pocket
approve the
veto.
zone change by first and second
Yeah.
reading of an ordinance.
It's kind of like a pocket veto.
Yeah, this is not like okay, so back, and I'm not rehashing all this, but back to the interlocal agreement with the city and the industrial authority. We took no action on that. With no action, after 30 days, that interlocal agreement is approved due to no action. This is not the case with this. This actually requires a first and second reading of a county ordinance to approve the zone change. So and by the time I get done talking, our 30 seconds is going to be over, well over. But yes, if we don't get a motion at all and it just sits here and dies, I mean, we've had motions die due to a lack of a second. I guess a motion can die due to a lack of a motion at all.
Basically, nothing happens and
Yeah.
you move on to the next item of business.
Right.
Basically, you would say no action taken.
No action taken, and no action taken on this would essentially
Leave
kill
it
the
as it
zone
is.
change.
Yeah,
because there's no ordinance to approve it.
Right, the zone stays as it is.
Yeah.
I think it sends a bad message to our planning and zoning.
Well, I think one way or the other, as we sit on this fiscal court, there should be a voice of a motion one way or the other. I think, and I'm kind of at the point that I can make and second motions. I really prefer not to, but sometimes I feel compelled to do so. I'm kind of at the point that we have a planning and zoning commission for a reason. They have public hearings for a reason. The neighbors, all adjoining property owners are notified of those public meetings. They're in attendance. As the counselor said, the Planning and Zoning Commission members gets to read the room more so than just hear the testimony that we all got transcripts of. So I'm not inclined to go against the planning and zoning, but it's got to be a decision of this body of government right here.
Well, I'm gonna move to approve. We gotta have a motion.
All
I don't
right,
think
so
we just.
we got a motion to approve the zone change as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll second it just so we can take a vote. They didn't want me to start auctioning off the time, did they, Chief? We're ready for a roll call on the zone change.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Mason Barnes,
Yes.
Myron Thurman,
No.
Scott Poston,
No.
Jeffrey Burr.
Nope.
All right, so we need to note, what's the course now, Sam? Do we notify planning and zoning that the
Yep.
zone change request was denied?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Moving along, and I think John Chandler's here with us. We got some information about some electronic permitting software. They checked 3 different groups that could do this. I don't know whether, John, I guess you talked with Adam about some of this software stuff?
Yeah, we talked more than this together, yeah.
Okay, so was this option A with the permit LV software, was it chosen because it's really good or because it's just the cheapest, or both?
It's cheaper and it suits our needs, for what we need. You can get more expensive that do a lot more, but for the volume we have, that'll do us well.
When it says permit, what permits are involved with this?
The big building, we actually get,
Hey, John,
12.
John. We can't hear you or see your pretty face. So, I mean, we can hear you, but the public watching live can't hear you.
So you get 12 different permit types, and we pick whatever we want. We actually only have, between building and electrical, you only have 4 really, residential and commercial. So it comes with 12. You could do code enforcement, or if we come, whatever. And this actually lets us pick pretty much what we want to do with it, because me and Adam would have to be the ones to set most of it up.
So could it get to the point where you could work with like Warner Electric or Electric Plant Board or Simpson County Water District or the city, where all permits could be pulled at one spot by doing electronic permitting?
No,
So,
that would never happen. It's not going to happen anyway. Because, well, with Warner Electric, you just apply for service there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as permitting, we kind of have that now to where in the county, you just come here and get a permit, we take care of all of it.
Yeah, it has streamlined a lot.
It's helped a lot. I think I know what you're talking about, to where you have to go several different places to get a building permit. In the county, you just come here, get your building permit, I take care of everything else.
Okay.
And that has been streamlined. The city, Carter takes care of the water and sewer on anything that's not a new subdivision. But I don't think it would ever get thrown into one to where it's all together.
So y'all see the cost, it's an initial cost of $14,724, and then the following years, it's a $1,900 a year renewal. I mean, that's currently what it is. In 5 years, it may be more.
Yeah, everything goes up, but the thing about this one also is it's a year-to-year contract. So you're not locked in for 5 years. They give us the software, we do everything, and then if we don't want it next year, we don't renew it.
Do you have to pay any update fees or anything?
Well, that's the $1,900 a year.
That's what all that.
Yeah.
Is there like a 30-day notice to be given or something?
I believe, I think it's 30 days is what.
Okay.
I
You just
don't
need to
have
stay
that
on top.
exact- right.
If it wasn't working, you need to make
Right.
sure you get it within the
Right.
time frame.
Yeah.
All right, so gentlemen, if y'all are so inclined, I just need a motion and a second to authorize the purchase of this permitting software and authorize the county judge to sign any documents that may be necessary to effectuate this contract with Permit LV.
So moved, Mason.
Got a motion by Myron,
Second.
second by Scott. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next, gentlemen, is an employee resolution 2024-08-06 EMP-FSFR. And you see on your portal is the message from the fire chief, and then an email chain that went back and forth between him and me And I honestly, and I apologize to the chief, I kind of dropped the ball on this. It should have been at our last meeting, and it got away. But this was a recommendation based on different trainings and merits for this particular employee.
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion by Myron to authorize this employee resolution.
I second it.
Got a second by Jeffrey. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, gentlemen, if y'all recall, we've done the IRBs for Laucam, and we had an agreement to have a pilot agreement for the school, and then there became some discrepancy between the school attorney and the Laucam attorney on how that all worked. I tried to get them to work this out amongst themselves, and that seemed to not happen. So we're back, we kind of, so to speak, we're back to the drawing board to reevaluate. And to the credit of Laucam, they said that they wanted to be a good community partner and would follow what we've traditionally been doing in the past. So they were good with that. With that being said, what we need now is a motion and a second to rescind the original Laucam pilot agreement as it relates to the Simpson County school system. Now, you got a motion by Scott. So to be clear, the original pilot agreement followed the SEEK formula, which was based on a percentage of money coming and what would go to the school. So we got a motion by Scott to rescind the SEEK formula, S-E-E-K, and I can get you what it stands for something, but I can't pull it from my mind. So we got a motion by Scott to rescind that original pilot agreement.
Second.
Got a second by Jeffrey. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And now to follow that up, we do need a motion and a second to approve the updated Laucam pilot agreement. And this one is just based purely on assessments and property, property assessments and taxes without the SEEK formula being involved, meaning there are no percentages off, that they're paying the 100% of what the assessed values are.
So,
Got a motion by Marty, a second by Myron. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And then we need a motion and a second to approve fiscal year 25 flex fund agreement. This would be $136,943 of work that we would perform that would be reimbursed to the county by the Kentucky Transportation Department of Rural Aid. And so this is money we can't get until we spend it, but we got to enter this agreement to get it after we spend it. So I need a motion and a second to approve this agreement and authorize the county judge to sign it.
So moved.
Got a motion by Jeffrey,
Second.
second by Scott. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, the budget transfers. If you've had an opportunity to review those, we need a motion and a second to approve the budget transfers as presented.
So moved.
Got a motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Myron. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next are a couple of cash transfers. One is $20,843.79 from the general fund from the federal grant fund to the general fund. I need a motion and a second to approve that cash transfer.
So moved.
Motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Jeffrey. Any question, discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next transfer is $157,500 from the general fund to the jail fund. We need a motion and a second to approve that transfer.
So moved.
Got a motion by Myron,
Second.
second by Scott. Any question, discussion on that? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then the bills and claims. We need a motion and a second to approve the bills and claims as presented.
So moved.
Got a motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Jeffrey. Any question, discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Stay, Vice.
Have one abstention. That motion carries. Then next would be to approve the July financial statement. We'd need a motion and a second to approve that financial statement subject to audit and authorize the county treasurer and the county judge to sign it.
So moved.
Got a motion by Marty.
Second.
Is that Scott?
Yes.
Second by Scott. Motion by Marty, second by Scott. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, moving on to reports. Gentlemen, there's a couple of things that were loaded onto your portal that are just under the reports. One, if you recall, Tammy Carey was here from the city going over the city's comprehensive plan that they put together. And of course, we had a few questions. I think primarily I asked several questions about some of their objectives toward the back of the book, how these objectives really work. Ultimately, everything in that plan would be, the purpose of it would be to bring it into the realization of our planning and zoning regulations. But I guess the question is, you see the answers to the questions that were there. At some point, it's kind of like the zone change thing. At some point, we've got to do something with an ordinance to either, and I don't know how this works, because there's parts of this that I don't feel good about incorporating into the planning and zoning regs to be binding on the county. So I don't know how we handle that. Like,
They said if we didn't pass it, then it would just be city only.
yeah. And while it's one of those things, are there parts of it, if not even the majority of it, okay, probably so, but there are parts of it that I don't think really should be binding on the county. So I guess our question is, what are we going to do with it? What do you guys want to do with it?
So is this gotta be like the budget that we're gonna have to be able to pass it all, or none, or
I don't
parts
know.
of it,
Sam,
or what?
can we do an ordinance that states we're in favor of all except for some sections that we don't want to be a part of the county regulations?
The short answer is yes, you can pass it. The question is, what, if any, implications do you face if you do so? Once again, that's kind of like filing a lawsuit. A lot where people saying you can't rob a bank, well, actually you can. I see them in court on it once in a while. The issue is it a good idea, or what the ramifications are? Short answer is I don't know what the ramifications are. I do know, if you're talking strictly about, how it affects planning and zoning regulations, well, I think that as it stands now, there are several regulations that have been adopted by the city that have not been adopted by the county. Now, I don't know, of course, the comprehensive plan is not the planning and zoning regulations. I think you can. If the city, if we don't, we have the option of not approving it. So I don't know why we wouldn't have the option of, approving some provisions and not others. but that's just my thinking on it. I haven't not researched it, but I would think if you can either say yes to it or no to it, I think you can probably, I would stand to reason you could say we approve everything except these provisions.
Because the one concern that I do have, you know, we currently have, I believe it is 7 subdivisions that are outside the city limits. Now, it's been some time, I don't recall the last time that someone actually done a subdivision development that was outside the city limits. But, you know, some of the subdivision language in here, I don't think would really be acceptable to a subdivision outside the city limits. And I say that to say this, while we haven't seen like a full-blown subdivision developed outside of the city limits, probably would White Oak be the last like full-blown subdivision that was done outside the city limits?
I would say so.
Probably. And that's been some years ago. I think we will eventually start to see that again, but the big difference is going to be, if you do a subdivision outside the city, you're going to be required to have 1 acre building lots to do that subdivision, simply because the septic system is going to be is required to be on a 1 acre tract of land now, and quite honestly, if you're moving out into a more remote part of the community, there's some of the things that are in here in subdivision that people probably wouldn't want out there. I don't know. I just need to know what you guys want to do with this. Or do you want to see, or do you want to, and maybe y'all have maybe I'm the only one that has reservations about a few of the things that are here, and I'll be glad to enumerate those and put them on for everyone to see in the next meeting.
There's a few things I have reservations about too. That's the reason I asked if we don't pass it, what happens?
Yeah.
So personally, I think the city spent the time and effort and the money of doing this. We didn't appoint any of the board members or any of that committee. We didn't really have a lot of say in this. Personally, I think we just let it be a city ordinance, or let the city do it and not worry with it in the county.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
this is a political question, not a legal one, and I try to keep my oar out of the water on those issues.
I love political questions. Let's go.
I think, in theory, that a comprehensive plan is a good idea because it is a means of controlling how you grow. And my concern is, and I'm not saying we ought to adopt the one the city did, but as a matter of general principle, I think a comprehensive plan is a good idea. Of course, I was involved in one of these back when I was planning and zoning attorney many years ago, and we have been experiencing a great deal of growth in recent years, and I think some of the members here have expressed in the past, you can't really stop it, but you can try to control it some. And I think that's where your comprehensive plan comes in, and I think some kind of plan beats no kind of plan, because, and that's my take on it, is I think the reason I'm kind of chiming in is I had some dealings with this, granted it was several years ago, but I do think it's better to try to control growth if you can, as opposed to not control the growth. I think long term, I don't think that's in our best interest. And so, and I'm not advocating for this particular plan.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you completely that having a plan, I just think there are some things here.
And I don't disagree with that.
And I'm not saying that it's even everything that is in what was questioned here, but there's a few of these that I feel like we need to really think long and hard. Do we want this to be part of what happens in the county? Because here's what happens. once it becomes this comprehensive plan, so to speak, not to be disrespectful in any way, so to speak, this becomes the Bible of planning and zoning. And so when someone walks in and says, I want to do this or this, and they open up the book and they're like, well, I'm sorry, but you can't do that. Well, there's some things that, yes, you may not want to do that inside the city, but would be perfectly fine outside the city.
As I said, I'm not advocating this particular every
And
detail.
so I'm willing to enumerate each objective and thing that I think we need to think about having omitted if we do pass it, if y'all would like to see that. But at the same time, if we have 3 people that just says, hey, I think this whole plan's great countywide, I guess we can do it. But I would not be in favor of this document as it sits and 100% of it.
Well, it's not the perfect plan, and we can't
There are
come
no
up with a
perfect
perfect plan. So, but we do have the ability to tweak this plan as needed, correct?
Hopefully.
So, I agree, it's not the perfect plan, but it's a far better plan than what we have right now, which is no direction, or limited direction.
Well, we still have a plan. We still have a plan.
Yeah,
just
but
outdated.
still, it's,
Outdated.
But this really isn't going to change the P and Z regs right now. It's just a guideline. to
Some of
where-
this will become part of the planning and zoning regs.
some of it will, yeah.
Okay.
But the
For some of the
court,
planning and zoning regs have been changed without our knowledge and input anyway over the last
True.
18 months or so.
but we'll have the ability, the court and the commission will have the ability to tweak these plans as time goes on and address problems that's probably going to arise from this. We'll have that ability, correct?
We should.
Should have that ability.
Yes, we should.
That usually happens when there's a problem.
Yeah, that's,
That usually happens when there's a problem.
yeah.
Fair point.
Just about every rule has a name to it. But if you know, like the issue with the farmland,
Yeah.
you know, basically trying to tell who can sell farmland outside the city limits, what it can be sold for. I know that'll be an issue in the future, so why not go ahead and do something about it now? Because, I mean, I, as an elected official or anybody else, I don't feel I have the right to tell somebody what they can sell their land for. And I don't think somebody should have the right to tell me what I can sell my land for. If I have a willing buyer and I'm a willing seller, that, as long as there's not a landfill or environmental deal is one thing. But if somebody wanted to offer a big enough check and they wanted to build some houses on the land I own, I don't see as the government should be able to tell me I can't do it.
I don't take it, Marty, I don't take it anybody's trying to tell you or anybody else what they do with the property. I view this as nothing but just a guideline. That's all I view it as. And, but like I stated earlier, we'll have the ability, wouldn't you think?
I don't know. Once those guidelines are in, like Mason was just saying, if somebody comes in to do something and they open their book and they say, no, it's not in the guidelines, that ends it right there.
Well, but
And
I
then
was
we
at-
won't hear about it, then it's a problem, then we can tweak it. But if we
I'm
know
not
it's gonna be an
sure that's-
issue now, I mean, if we know something's gonna be an issue in the future, why not go ahead and address it now?
Well, I'm not sure that that's what was stated at the meeting. I think the attorney for the P and Z said it was just a guideline. That's the way I understood it.
Well, then why are we passing it in the form of an ordinance? If it's just a guideline, why not just say this is a guideline the way, if it's just a guideline, an ordinance means that you're going by it. But if it's just a guideline, you wouldn't have to pass it in the form of an ordinance.
And there was also questions about that.
Yeah.
That night too.
I know when I was on planning and zoning and we was talking about doing a comprehensive plan, there was actually saying that in the whole county, you couldn't build a fence on your property line. That was one of the things they put in there. You had to move your fence off the property line 4 foot. So in case you had animals, somebody couldn't, if they and animal bid them, they would be actually on your property. And I said, that's crazy. You put a fence on the property line. I mean, you know, so there was stuff, but you know, you see things like that. And so.
Well, yeah, well, there's one thing here that I'm completely opposed to. I'm opposed to this, whether it's inside or outside the city limits as it relates to a subdivision. Objective G3, where they want to require new major residential subdivisions or specific plans to dedicate and improve land for parks and recreation facilities that can be safely accessed by foot or trails from the surrounding neighborhoods. That's not the purpose of that developer. That developer's, listen, if people could develop land into parks and trails and make money, we would have parks and trails being developed everywhere. And then you go back, and it's like I said, then you come back to objective G5, where you enable, ease, and encourage development of diversified supply of safe quality. You're not going to encourage any development if you're making people do parks in their subdivision development. So those are things that, like, that's one, I'm all well and good with that if the city wants to do it, but if we'd have a subdivision development outside the city limits, I don't want to force those people to put a park in.
All right.
So I'm saying, I'm glad to enumerate the things that I feel like need to be omitted from the county side, if y'all want to see that, before we do anything with this. Because
I'm okay with that, Mason.
I cannot vote for this with stuff like that in there.
So who has actually voted for this comprehensive plan as we speak? I mean,
Well, the committee that the city put together okayed it. It went to the city. I think the city's had a first and second reading of an ordinance to approve it. Yeah. And
Was it voted at planning and zoning?
It was voted at planning and zoning. The committee recommended it to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning voted to send it to the city and the county for ordinance reading.
But even at planning and zoning, it wasn't a unanimous vote.
No, that was not a unanimous vote of the
it was.
PNC.
I was there that night. Yeah, you're right. It was. Yeah.
So there were some people, even on planning and zoning, that had issues with some things in here.
Yeah. So I'm glad to enumerate, because like that, I mean, we will inevitably, and I'm going to say probably within the next 5 years, have a subdivision development that will be outside the city limits. I can't agree to this.
I don't know, where they annex everything. I don't know what outside, it may be outside the city
They'll
limits.
soon run out of the ability to provide sewer, so they'll back off of that.
You know, and that's something, when we talk about, I had a phone call the other day, wanting to know if I could help get a fire hydrant put down on Blackjack Road at Ditmore Ford, which is about halfway between 1008 and the old Blackjack store. There's not a big enough water line on Blackjack Road to put a fire hydrant on.
Wow.
We've got some issues that needs to be addressed by the water department as far as water supply in the county. Because we have a fire hydrant on Salem Road. It's a big enough line to do that, but on Blackjack Road, which, you know, you would think that close to town, within 3-4 miles of town, you would have enough water line and supply to, and how many roads was it, 30 something, or 30, 40 roads with no water mains on in the county?
No water main at all.
So we have some stuff we need to work with the water department somehow or another to get some of these issues straightened out too.
All right. I will get my specific objections enumerated that I feel like I could say, okay, we'll do this if these items do not apply to sites outside of the city limits. And then y'all take a look at that, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
And if there's anything in particular that any of y'all have that you say, I think we need to really take a look at this, either text me, call me, or email it to me, and I'll get that included in the list of things for us to look at.
Okay.
All right, moving on, I guess you've seen the other item here on the portal, there's no vote to be taken on it, because they don't give us, they don't ask us if it's okay, and they don't say, will y'all let us know if it works, but obviously you see that the KSP has reevaluated their fees for 911 and have determined that it cost an additional $92,450.82. The thing that I am waiting for clarification of is it says the new interlocal agreements will be sent out after the first of the year for electronic signature, so we will have to vote to sign that, but we don't get it's not like we have a discussion on what the cost is. We don't get to sit down at a round table and say, this is what we would
I
like.
thought it was funny that they said they made absolutely no money on it, so apparently somebody's accusing them of making too much money.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get clarification on, they say they'll send the interlocal agreement out after the first of the year, which I determined to be January, but it says that the agreements, the new pricing will go into effect beginning with fiscal year 25 first quarter billing cycle, which is right now. So I don't know, if we don't sign a new agreement till January 1, we won't be paying the new agreement price till after that, so I'm trying to get some clarification on that.
Is this amount that's 92, was that exactly what we had in the budget? I mean, that was the exact, I hadn't looked back at the budget to make sure.
No.
But I wanted to make sure that was, if they didn't increase it more than what we had put in the budget.
When they're talking about fiscal year, are they
You know
on
what I mean?
calendar year or fiscal year like
I don't know, but
sheriff's department?
I don't know.
Because if
Sheriff,
it's
do
after.
you know the answer to that? Does KSP operate on a calendar year like the sheriff's department or a fiscal year?
I think they operate on a fiscal year.
Okay.
And there's two types of fiscal year. If you get into the federal.
Fiscal year, it's October.
Then-
Yes, the federal fiscal year starts October 1. And a typical business fiscal year starts July 1. Why can't we just all start the year on January 1? That's kind of when it starts.
It's New Year, isn't it?
It's the new year. But at any rate, the bottom line is we'll eventually get a contract where we're going to owe $92,000 more annually.
And we don't know when.
And we don't really know when, but we will get it.
That was a verbal contract, well, verbal what you asked to put in the budget from them, what it was, about what it
Yes.
was.
Yes.
This is actual.
But having said all of that, even at the increased price, based on what some of the surrounding counties are paying to operate their own 911, we're still doing it for about half price or less.
Yeah.
So,
I would still like to know those phone numbers or the dollar amount associated
yeah.
with the landlines and the cell
They
phones.
do provide that now.
Yes, they did.
Oh, they did?
On the
Okay.
invoices, they are providing it now.
Okay, good.
The CMRS is what they call it.
Yeah. Yes, they finally did come around with that one. All right, this Friday, the 9th, is the Hometown Harvest Dinner at the barn at Bethel Grove. I believe they gather at 6 or 6:30, dinner's at 7 o'clock. We agreed in our last meeting to sponsor. With that sponsorship, we get 2 tickets. If you're going to go, we need to know so we can notify the extension office how many tickets we need. We know we have 2. I can't go Friday night,
I won't be able to go.
so
I'll be already there, but I don't have to have a ticket.
you don't have to have a ticket, okay?
I probably will go, yeah,
Okay.
probably will.
I was planning on going.
So we
I
only
didn't know.
1 ticket each or 2 tickets? I mean,
Kathy's gonna go.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
there'll
just
be 2
pay
of
for
us
her.
going here, but
yeah, and you plan to go, correct?
No, don't be buying an extra ticket for me, so no, is the short answer.
Okay. So if you and Scott are going, then the 2 tickets we get, you guys can use them.
then I'll take care of my
Okay.
wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good enough. Oh,
I think, do they still have to let them know, like, are there choices and then,
Yes, they gotta know if they need beef or chicken.
so you all need to let the extension office?
Okay,
Let Jason Phillips
let Jason
know.
Phillips know if you're eating beef or chicken Friday night.
all right.
Or just show up and you'll either get beef or chicken.
Right. Whatever we decide you
Or
get.
both.
Or whatever leftovers.
Yeah. All right, and also Saturday, the 10th, there'll be some road closures around the square in downtown. It's the Garden Spot Run. Any of y'all running?
If you see me running, there's somebody chasing me.
There's a bull after
Or
you.
the dam broke or something.
All right, and then finally, just be aware, a week from tomorrow, school starts back, so watch out for the school kids and the buses and all of that, and be extra traffic out and about, and that'll be happening there. That's all I've got. Marty, you have anything?
I've heard a lot of complaints about the 1008, the bridge out here over the railroad track. That's not a bump.
No.
But if somebody were, like, one of my friends was talking about busting a tire on the front of his truck. I know when they did that one on Gold City Road, the state paid for some of that. So do they need to just stop at the state barn and talk to Barry out there?
I guess you could stop at the state highway barn there and say, hey.
Or walk to there if you got a flat tire.
Well, he busted the belt, a brand new tire, and he hit it, and he busted the belt in the tire. But,
Someone said
Just
front
me.
end,
The
front
bridge is
end.
not far away from the maintenance barn.
That's right.
just go slow, you know, it's not a bump, and the sign is about half hidden, so it's not a bump. Our guys at the county do a lot better job with signage than what the state's doing. But other than that, I don't have anything.
Jeffrey, you have anything?
The Boys and Girls Club's got a new director.
I met her last week.
Did you?
Or a week before.
Well, I was gonna see if she
Week
could come
before.
up here maybe
Yeah.
next meeting, maybe
Yeah.
introduce her or
Yeah.
whatever next
Yeah.
time, so
Yeah.
glad you got to
Yeah.
meet her.
Bring her.
She's nice,
See if she can come up at our next meeting. Let's see, 6th, 13th, it'll be the 20th.
20.
Scott, you have anything?
No, sir.
Mine? Counselor?
Couple of things. One is tax sales next month. Please try to get if you have delinquent taxes, please try to get them paid before then, because the longer you wait, the more it costs. One other thing, a few meetings ago, issue came up about what we're going to do about, if anything, about marijuana/cannabis, and I think it was the will of the body that we were not going to make a decision yea or nay, and obviously my position on that, and I freely admit some of that has to do with the fact that I'm a prosecutor most of the time. I was more in favor of prohibiting something, and the judge has pointed out, and I don't disagree with him, the odds of getting a dispensary put up here are not that high. My concern is, as I've said, spoke to you, Judge, things do not stay static. Things tend to creep along. When I started practicing law longer ago than I care to admit right now, the idea of marijuana becoming legalized in Kentucky, I thought California, sure, but I'm just saying, I thought that was just a pipe dream. That could never, ever happen in my lifetime, and I was wrong. And it didn't happen overnight. It's been a gradual change in people's opinions and perceptions. Another one, as I spoke to you about, was when I was a young man, I never thought the city of Franklin would go wet. I just didn't think that was going to happen. And it went wet, and by a margin I was rather surprised at. Once again, that didn't happen overnight. That was a thing that happened gradually. People's positions evolved, changed, attitudes changed. The legislature has given us an opportunity. I wish they had not done it, but they did it, and it gave us an opportunity to exercise some amount of home rule. There are times, however, they do stuff and they don't give us a choice on something, and there are times that we all moan and groan, and rightfully so, complain about it. They've given us a chance to exercise some home rule. My thinking is, eventually, I believe that there will be dispensaries here. May not be now, may not be 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but I think there probably will be. I would rather try to be proactive than try to reactive and try to catch the train as it's leaving the station, so to speak. I know what the city has done. I'm not recommending that we do what the city has done regarding putting it on the ballot and all that stuff. one of the things, if this group here is not interested in restricting it, which is my position, just from a legal standpoint, I think it causes more aggravation than for me and the court systems. But I do think we ought to at least consider, and I'm not saying we should do something today, but at least consider the issue or the action of if and when that day comes. And I hope I'm wrong, truly. I've been practicing law over 30 years, and I've discovered that I am oftentimes happier being proven wrong than right. I would like to try to do something to maybe restrict, if it comes in here, where those places can be. I know the state has put some restrictions, but I think we at least ought to put some restrictions ourselves. And the city's doing that. I'm not saying we ought to do what the city does, but I do think we ought to at least consider, if that eventuality comes to pass, that we put some restrictions on where something like that, the production facilities, processing facilities, and dispensaries and so forth, where they can be, so we can at least control some of it. That would be my suggestion, is at least we consider that. I'm not asking for an answer today, but I do think it's a topic that we ought to at least think about.
So if y'all recall, when we did have this discussion a few meetings back, the state does have some restrictions and regulations and guidelines in place as far as locations of those. And they may not be as all-encompassing as what the counselor wished they were, but there are some restrictions and regulations as to where these things, I mean, like, you can't open up a dispensary right next to a school, you can't open up a dispensary right next to a church, you can't, all these things are state regulations. There's only going to be, there's 11, the state's divided into 11 regions, and 9 of those regions are only going to get 4 dispensaries. And we're in a 9-county region, so there will only be 4 in the 9 counties, period. And depending on what each county does, there could be less than 4. There are 2 regions, one that includes Louisville, one that includes Lexington, that will get an additional dispensary in those areas. The processing and production facilities, and I say again, and I understand what Sam is saying, initially the state is only going to authorize 10 of those statewide. I mean, it's not like 10 per region, like we're divided in 11 regions for the dispensary. It's not like each of those 11 regions gets 10. It's going to be 10 statewide. So it's not like that processing facilities or crop production facilities are going to be, no pun intended, cropping up everywhere across the state.
Nicely said.
They're going to be highly limited. And so in our discussion, you know, we kind of talked about just let the state regulate it instead of us sticking our nose in it. But I did offer this because I don't know that this is necessarily a bad idea, that for the production and processing and those type of facilities, if we allow them in Simpson County, to do so in an industrial zone, either an I-1 or an I-2. Not to allow it in an ag zone, not to allow it in a business zone,
or
not to allow it in a residential zone, but do an ordinance that would restrict the processing or production to an industrial zone.
And I believe they have to be like very, very strict security measures on.
Oh gosh, it's crazy when you read. Y'all got a copy of all that stuff, the information, what they do, and then the dispensary, if you even have one. My thing on the dispensary would be one of 2 things. Well, really one of 3, and I'm not opposed to just letting the state regulate it, and if they meet the criteria of the state, then they do it. But if we want to regulate it, I would think we do one of 2 things here. Either you do an ordinance where we only allow it in a B5 zone, which is interstate business. So you're not getting it in you're not getting it in a B1, 2, 3, or 4, which are more common, like downtown businesses or business facilities like out around Walmart and Lowe's. You can't put it, it would have to be specifically at interstate, intersection type facilities, or you don't allow it at all. Really, it's kind of unclear what the city's going to do, because they initially done an ordinance to not allow it whatsoever. And I guess their ordinance still stands, but they've also requested it be put on the ballot for the people.
On the
inside.
website, it says there's an
Yeah.
ordinance that they signed.
Yeah, but they've also made requests at the clerk's office to have it put on the ballot. So I guess, you know, and so I don't know what will happen in the vote. So then if the people overturn the ordinance by vote, I guess they have to go back up to the drawing board and figure out. So I go back to kind of where I'm at on this. I think we either leave it alone and let the state do it, or we implement some ordinances that would limit the zones in which we would allow these things to operate.
I'm a little bit confused, Mason. That was a special call meeting that we had where we discussed that, but we couldn't take any action on that. That was a special call meeting. Was it June the 2nd?
Was it in the special call?
I think
Yeah.
it was. I think that's why maybe
So-
we didn't vote.
We didn't actually, yeah, we discussed it, but we didn't take any type of action. And I've been wondering where we're at on that subject. I mean,
Well, as I said, I freely admit, and I'm telling it to everybody on camera, that I have bias and prejudice in this issue because I'm a prosecutor. I'm in the court system every week. Matter of fact, I'm there this afternoon. And so I run into a lot of this, and whenever...
Maybe it would lower your court cases if it was legalized medically.
Well, it has, having extended gambling at the track has not lowered my caseload, it's raised it. So...
But is it stemming from the gambling at the track or other things at the track? Or do you think it all stems from the gambling?
That's the genesis of it. Because I'm just saying, I'm not opposed to gambling, but there are other things that pop up, infrastructure issues, and we have assaults down there, we have a lot of thefts down there, we have people coming in, stealing other people's cars, breaking into cars. As I said, I am not against necessarily, people, if they're of age and they choose to gamble, that's their business. My concern is the side effects or the collateral damage. And my concern here on that is, I understand I'm probably in the minority on the issue where marijuana is concerned, and that's fine, I follow the law.
Yeah.
But I do think we ought to put some, if it's the will of the court not to do anything, so be it. But I do think we need to put some restrictions on, as I think and once again, I hope I am wrong. I'm saying on record, I hope I'm wrong. That when, not if, but when this eventually gets here, I'm not saying now.
Yeah.
We have some control on where it comes into the community.
So I guess my answer to your question is I guess this, because you're right, and when we discussed it, but the question was, does the court want to take some kind of action, or do we just want to let the state regulate it the way that they've set it up? And I was under the impression that all of you said, just let the state handle it and we're going to stay out of it.
I think that'd come up, but I wasn't under the impression we could even make a decision. We just discussed it.
So,
The minutes, the June 25th special call meeting, there was no action regarding this matter since only discussion of the subject was on the agenda.
so I go back to, here's the thing. One, the state legislature has legalized it. That's completely out of our hands. We have we can't sit here today and say.
Medical marijuana.
Medical marijuana.
Okay, let's be
We're
clear.
talking about medical use of marijuana, cannabis, whatever it is. So the state legislature has legalized it, and there's not anything we can do to change that in
True.
Simpson County or any other county in the state of Kentucky. We can regulate where we would let the activity be. And as I've stated, I think if we're going to regulate it like that, I think the processing and production and all of that should be relegated to an industrial zone. And if we allow the dispensary, it should be relegated to a B5 zone. Here's the other thing. I would be more inclined to do that. I mean, you can put it, you can put it on as referendum like the city has done.
I'm not recommending that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it either, because here's what happens. If we kind of have the option right now, and I guess the other option, to determine where we would allow the activity to happen. Now, what's going to happen is, if we just said we want an ordinance and we just don't want it to happen at all, it's not going to stop it. It's just going to make the people that are needing the medical marijuana disobey or go against an ordinance that the county has, because
They'll just have to go to another county that has that.
Well, because it's still legal. You can't keep them from bringing it into Simpson County.
I'm not advocating that.
You can't keep them from doing it. And here's the other part of that too. I want everybody that's watching this now or will watch it later as people share it and says, man, you can't believe all the discussion they had about marijuana at the court meeting.
And we don't even have none here.
We don't have any here.
It's a lot more interesting what they usually talk about.
So I want everyone to clearly understand this. I am not advocating whatsoever for recreational marijuana, for people to just sit around and smoke pot and be high and do what, I'm not advocating for that whatsoever. I have absolutely zero opinion one way or the other on medically produced marijuana, because I'm not in the medical community. I don't understand what it can or can't help. I don't know what it can or can't do. I would assume, I don't know this, but I would assume that the state legislators had discussion and probably had doctors and different folks coming before certain group hearings to hear all this before they made a determination to legalize medical marijuana in the state of Kentucky. So can it be beneficial to a patient that needs it? The only thing I can say is evidently there are doctors that believe it can. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
Also, another thing that needs to be, once again, I figure eventually, and this is not a decision for today by any stretch, but when it gets here, not if, we locate it where we would like to locate it. But there's also, the issue, do we tax it? How much we tax it? What can we tax it at?
You can't tax it. That's the thing. It's not a money generator.
I understand, but I think you can charge for the licenses.
You can charge a license. You can implement a license for it.
You call it a license, I call it it's Rosebuddy of the name.
Yeah, whatever it is. But we can implement that, but you have somehow, and I don't know how you prove this, you have to prove that whatever fee you attach to the operation, that it actually cost your administrative staff or whoever's involved that much to do it. So if we said, okay, the fee's $1,000, we're going to have to prove that it's going to be $1,000 additional work.
Is there a time frame on us doing something with this?
Well, the time frame will be prior to January 1, but here's the other big kicker. And this doesn't make any sense, but then again, this is a level of government higher. Listen, local government doesn't make any sense. I understand what I just said, and I understand where I'm sitting. State government makes even less sense, and federal government makes even less sense yet. But my point to all that is, Marty, yes, this doesn't even become law until January 1, but the state is allowing people to apply for licenses beginning July 1.
Yeah, they're already able to apply for licenses even though it's not legalized until January.
What I was going to say is, obviously the city the city government had a lot of people want to have this on the ballot after they passed that ordinance, so it's going on the ballot. So why don't we just leave it alone right now until we see the results of that election? Because if we sit here and we're going to do something, you can't have it in this county, but it passes on the ballot at the election, then that kind of, you've had people that have spoken and voted on it, so.
Well, that'd only be for the city limits though.
But the city's inside the county.
Right, but I mean, that would only be for.
Absolutely.
Well, and to Marty's point, if it were, and I'm with Sam, I'm definitely not advocating putting it on the referendum ballot, but if it were, the same people that would vote on it in the city would be able to vote on it in a county referendum, because countywide gets to vote on that.
They voting twice.
Yeah.
But no, my thinking is, even if the will of the people through the referendum, is in favor of it, I still stand by my position. We need to regulate where it goes, because there's a lot of things we regulate where they go now that's perfectly legal, like housing and businesses and lots of other. As I said, I just want to make it clear. I hear what you're saying, and I'm not. There's some sense to what you're saying, Marty, as far as whether we restrict it or not. The question is, my position, no matter what the result of the referendum in the city has, is I still think we need to regulate where such things are located.
Would that be done through planning?
Yeah, it's a zoning regulation.
It would be a zoning regulation. Like if we voted, and I'm asking you guys this question.
I think that's sort of what the city's doing, is like the B5.
Yeah, I'm just straight asking you guys a question. If the industrial zone, would it make sense to you guys that any processing or production be in an industrial zone and any dispensary be in a B5 zone?
I think.
Well, I don't want it in Simpson County. If I need medical marijuana, there's going to be many places to get it besides just Simpson County. I don't want it raised in Simpson County. I don't want it dispensed in Simpson County. I think it's going to cause
But you
problems.
would use it?
If my doctor said so, but I'm not worried about getting it. I'm not going to get into the medical part of it. Mason, we had a health board meeting a few months back ago.
I know.
And you polled 3 doctors, and what did those doctors tell you?
They said there's medicine that already treats what they think this will do.
None of them supported medical marijuana. None of them.
Was any of them the ones in favor of giving out needles to drug users?
Well, Marty, I didn't answer that question.
My guess is that question never came up.
I doubt it.
At one time, the health department was promoting giving out needles to drug users.
So I'm going to be like I'm not going to take a stance on the medical part of it, because I have no knowledge of that, none whatsoever. But if I need it and it's going to help me, I will get it. Well, the Simpson County has it here in this particular county. We probably got somebody that will apply for a license to either grow or.
I'm sure we've already got somebody basically growing it.
Yeah, basically, yes. And I'm sure that the folks at XYZ would love to have a license. I don't have any.
It's heavy regulated. If you get on the internet, it's called Casper. If you get on there, and I actually talked to my doctor about this the other day. It is heavy.
Casper is a computerized system where they check about doctors issuing or people issuing prescriptions for stuff.
So it's
based on the
heavily
opioid
regulated.
problem we had.
There's no question about that.
No, it's going to be seriously regulated.
Well, I don't use any of those vapes, but the THC vapes, can you buy them in any store? Does anybody know? Can you buy them in any store, Sheriff?
Yeah.
And THC is the main ingredient in marijuana, or the main deal in marijuana?
It's still supposed to be below the .03 threshold, which makes it, you got the CBD, it falls into the CBD category.
I understand.
Can you tell? No, and they get kids with vapes all the time that are high.
So we're
But the issue, kids
they're talking about regulating it, don't want it in the county.
But kids are
And
smoking.
you go right down here to a vape store and buy it.
Yeah.
I didn't say not use it. I didn't want it raised or dispensed in this county.
But it already is what I'm saying. You can go right down here to a vape store.
Medical marijuana is?
THC, which is what is American marijuana.
once again, I think we're getting a little bit off the topic. The topic is, we've got something we have the opportunity to regulate, and I think we ought to regulate it. Now, if I had the opportunity to regulate the THC vapes, I'd be advocating for that. So I'm talking about doing something we can do something on, not something that we can't.
And you're saying do it before January 1?
Yeah. And I think it's a good idea to require the processing and production to an I zone, industrial zone, and the dispensary to a B5 zone, or maybe even just to not even allow a dispensary.
But the issue is, if you're gonna allow a dispensary, I think the B5 is.
B5 is what makes sense.
How many
makes
B5
sense.
zones are outside the city limits?
Hardly any.
How many industrial board zones are outside the city limits?
A handful.
So everything, that's why I'm saying, if we wait to see what the city does,
Yeah.
that would kind of base on our decision. But I think we're trying to regulate something that will never happen in the county anyway.
To be very honest with you, the only industrial zone that I know outside the city limits is out where this business is already taking place.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, you can regulate it outside the county, but if they allow it inside the
Yeah,
city,
X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
then,
I think you're right.
then the
I think
stuff
that's the
we're
only
regulating.
industrial zone that's outside the city.
Yeah.
Well, as I said,
And so if we done an ordinance to regulate it to there, I mean, that's really going to limit where that activity is going to be.
but I'm not talking, as I said, I freely admit, I absolutely think the judge is right. The odds of getting, I think XYZ, because they're already in operation, has a better than average shot of getting one of the things, even though they're very few, limit. I mean,
That would be 1 of 10 across the entire state.
my point is, because they're already up and going, they would have a better shot than someone just trying to start from scratch, is my point. I'm not saying they're going to get one, but I mean, as far as dispensary and everything else concerned, I agree with what your assessment. I'm talking about in the future, because I think, and as I said, I hope I'm wrong, but I think eventually it'll probably be after we're gone, most likely, at least out of public office, then I think we need to do something proactive for a change as opposed to reactive.
All right. Well, y'all give me your feedback and we'll
Sorry,
lay it down. Sheriff, you have anything?
No report, sir.
Chief, you have anything? No, sir. John, anything else with planning and zoning, building inspections?
No.
Bill, anything with maintenance? Bobby, anything with the road?
Always something with the roads.
I guess this is the proper way to do this, but, on our website, we have a system set up if somebody requests a speed zone change or some type of signage. Scott has asked me about changing a sign in Country Club Estates that is a yield sign, and my recommendation is we put up stop signs, so we're going to affect the traffic flow. In other words, if you come off 31W on Fairway, there is no stop sign at that little intersection where North and South Fairway come together. There's yield signs. There needs to be 2 stop signs there for North and South Fairway, and let the incoming traffic have the right of way.
So incoming traffic, whether they're turning
Off of
left or
31,
right, would have the right of way,
Right.
and you would
Yeah.
stop as you're coming out.
And we've
But there's
discussed,
nothing but one yield sign,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Maybe
There's
we
a
can put a
yield sign.
roundabout there.
it's halfway there. So I don't think there'd be an issue. We've talked
Yeah, I
about
don't
it,
either.
but I would rather you all.
I think it would really help.
It's your district, so if
Yeah.
you whatever you're in favor of, I'm in favor of.
Yeah, I think it'd be fine to put the stop signs.
That's what
right
needs to be
there.
done.
Yeah.
It's been there since I've been here, so I've never addressed it.
I mean, if you
we're
don't
gonna
have
change it-
something there, not saying anything has happened, but, well, who's gonna stop?
Who
Well,
would
there's
be
no
at
stop
fault,
sign.
Sheriff, if there's no signage at all and it's just a collision?
That'd be for the lawyers to determine.
Actually, we don't define fault. We do put whoever appears to be the primary.
Bobby, is that what you're
That's what the lawyers are for.
Do you need a motion to,
This, if that's, yeah, That way,
I'll
it's
make a
on,
motion that we add the stop signs.
when somebody calls to complain,
They can call me.
you're the man.
That's
That's
right.
right. All right,
Call me.
What are the name of the streets?
Fairway, North Fairway, and South Fairway.
so we got a motion by the
Scott.
magistrate of the district, Scott Poston, to implement the stop signs. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Myron. Anybody have any question or discussion on it? Everybody's got Scott's phone number, so if anybody complains to you, you can give them Scott's phone number. I don't think anybody will complain. I think some of them will be
Well,
really happy
I
to
mean,
have it.
we've got those other places, you know, as far as it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
But it's,
That's all the four-way stops are, suggestions. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? All right, all I need now is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Marty, a second by Jeffrey. All in favor, aye. And I forgot to, I gotta be out this on business.